What's going on, everybody? I got Lordis with me, and today we're talking about a very important topic: home inspections. Now, the reason why we're talking about this is because we've seen a record level of people go under contract and cancel their contract because of home inspection issues. Now, a fun fact is that the VA does not require a home inspection, but they highly encourage you. And Lourdes and I also highly encourage you to get this because there's a lot of things that go on there. It's a scary report, and there's lots of different reports you can get. But knowing how to dive through that is so important because even when I bought a home, and Lourdes, when you bought your place not that long ago either, we had home inspections and there was a lot of things that were wrong with the home. But we knew going in, hey, this is something we can fix. It's not that expensive, and just really knowing how to go through that report. So, Lourdes is going to walk us through the different type of reports that exist, the importance of those reports, and then we're just going to go through kind of what we normally find in them. And also, like a side note, Lourdes, I know that with a lot of rehab works, that's really where we see a lot of cancellations as well, just because they do like a quick job, it looks really nice, but then internally it's completely like old and just not even usable. So Lourdes, kick it off, come on.
Yeah. So, one of the questions I get from my clients is, should we have an inspection because the VA is going to have their inspection?
Oh,
And
that's right.
that is something that I definitely wanted to clear. First off, is David, can you say on the lending side what the appraiser actually looks for? And are they getting down and dirty and looking at everything that they need to look at?
No, well, this is the thing. The VA looks at what's called the minimum property requirements to ensure the property is safe, sound, and sanitary, right? That's really what they're looking for. And they really just kind of, I've seen appraisers go walk in the door, take some pictures, and walk right out. And they're just like, all right, this property is good to go. You really need to have a contractor that's spending hours there kind of going through everything because the VA is not really responsible for that, and they're not even like, they do a visual inspection of the roof. They just kind of look like, oh, okay, yeah, it's good to go. But you and I know both is that when the inspector actually goes out, they're like, hey, this has got like 2 years left on it. Are you ready to drop 15 grand in 2 years to renovate that property? So yeah, they very do a very light touch on the inspection side of things.
Okay, thank you for touching on that because we get that question all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a few different types of inspection. The first one is the most common, which is the home inspection. So just like how you said, they're going to be checking the roof, the windows, the walls, the foundation. They're going to be looking to make sure that the water heater is working, the furnace is on, that all the vents are getting the actual temperature that it needs to get. So they do a thorough inspection as well as the electrical. They'll take the panel off. They'll make sure that there's no double tapping. They'll educate you along the way also, just to make sure that you're staying up with your deferred maintenance.
Oh,
And
Lourdes, that's another good point you just made before you go in.
Mhm.
Please attend your home inspection. Please attend.
Thank you for that. That's
Yes.
important
That is very
because you're
because
gonna see
yeah.
you're gonna see everything that comes on that report. And most people, like, if you see a report of 40 pages, which is typically about 40 pages,
Yeah.
and, there's a door that's not closing all the way, and it's just a simple fix with just a screw, you may blow it out of proportion if you're not physically there to actually see what the inspection report actually comes back at. So we how you alluded to, before, is we've had inspections brand new. Actually had an inspection yesterday. It was a gut rehab, and, there wasn't even a seal in the toilet. There was a leak from the toilet, brand new toilet, brand new installation, and there's a leak coming through when you flush it. It's so crazy and beautiful house, and then the sub pumps weren't connected, so when the,
Wow.
inspector connected the sub pump, starts spraying all over the place. So this is a brand new gut rehab job. Well, not gut rehab, I'm just saying it's a rehab job. It was a very quick one, but, this stuff happens even with a new construction,
Right.
property that or a renovated property, even new construction. We had a panel, electric panel in the same place as a sub pump.
Yeah.
Can't even
No
tell you.
bueno.
No bueno. So it's very important to have that inspection as well. So that's one of the things. There's another inspection which I also encourage, is a sewage inspection. So during the home inspection, if you do see that there is water that is being backed up, or it's not draining all the way, and it's even if it's a new rehab home, I would highly encourage scoping the sewer line, because if you don't do that, we had a client that didn't. It's pretty. It's about $400 to do that, anywhere between $200 to $400 to scope it, but she ended up paying her insurance paid $40,000 to replace her sewer line because it was cracked and jacked up the entire way. So that is something. If you do see that there's a lot of trees, big trees around there, the trees like to go into your plumbing line and break
Yes.
it. So that is something that you want to just make sure, just to see a couple roots. I mean, that's okay, but like if you see a severe crack, with the amount of water that you may get from your with the amount of water that you may get, it can always back up into your home, and that's the last thing that you want is, you spend all this money, now you have a sewage problem, now you know, you gotta spend all that money to get it fixed, so that's an important one.
Yeah, and with
Have
that
you
one, Lourdes, is
Mhm.
that I am going through that myself, but I knew that that was a problem, and that client probably they knew that they got that insurance money, so it was like 40 grand. We're spending about 15,000 to get that sewer line replaced, and now they put these injector pumps where the house can't back up, which is
Mhm.
really great, but it's also expensive and it's based on new code. And
Yeah.
when you do something like that, you might want to think about upgrading your water line at the same time because they already got the excavator there. And bigger water lines means better pressure in your home so you can actually do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
love that you bring it up, that you can definitely do it simultaneously, and I think most
yep.
of the time you do, just because, they have to excavate to
With
get
your,
to that
your
sewer
whole
line.
yard. And it gets
Yeah,
expensive when they have to
yeah,
connect to the main. And I'm learning all this kind of as I'm going through this renovation learning process. But that's why the home inspection is so important because, like, yeah, if you're not prepared for it, you fail. But if you are prepared for it, you're like, okay, I have a mental game plan coming in, right?
yeah, and I also see, I advise my clients, like, "Hey, you should also get flood insurance, not flood insurance, but, the backup sewage insurance, like, if it comes back into your basement, it comes back into your house." I highly advise my clients getting that, sewage backup, addition on their homeowner's insurance, because if that happens, they don't naturally give it to you. You have to ask for it as an add-on, they try
Ah,
to catch you, but I always say, "Make sure you get that." But, we have sub pumps, I don't care. Like,
right, right.
get a
And
backup battery for your sub pump, however, make sure that
oh
you
yeah.
do have that, because you don't want that water coming back in. So that's one. Another one, which is very common in our world, is a termite inspection.
For
So
VA loans specifically.
for VA loans specifically, we do need to get a termite inspection. So, for they just passed something where the veteran can now pay for that, because before, the sellers, if they didn't pay for it, it would kill the deal. So
Wild to me. That $75 item would cause deals to fall apart, but that's okay.
yeah, and it's important to get one, to, if you see, even if, you're not a veteran, but if you do see tunnels in the beams of the, typically we find those in the basement. You can see in some areas where there's a lot of moisture, the moisture starts to get the wood starts to soften a little bit, and it's just a perfect haven for termites. So you start to see little tunnels, and if you see that, definitely 1000% get a termite inspection. Just make sure that, that there's no current or active termites.
Right.
I've walked into only 2 homes out of all the hundreds of homes that I've been into, where I saw, like, active, like, tunnels, and, when the termite inspector came out, it was active, and I was like, "Oh my god, they exist." You know?
Wow. And see,
Uh,
the downside to that is that they may cause severe structural damage. And that's where, when we see them from a lending side, sometimes we'll have to request an engineer go out and look and be like, hey, is this place falling apart?
right.
Especially like so good point, Lourdes, is that not just VA loans, but any type of loan that you do or any home that you're buying, even if it's cash, you should still be doing that report just to confirm because that could be a very, very expensive lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They eat away the structure of your home.
Yep.
So
Literally, that's their jobs.
that's their jobs. Yeah, the next one is radon. There's certain areas in this country where radon is a little bit more prevalent. So, what radon is, it's a natural gas that comes from the earth, and you can't smell it, you can't see it. There's really no way to detect it, but there is a radon a radon test that you can get, and it checks the waves of the radon. So anything over um, 4 PCI is considered is hazardous. So there is a radon mitigation system. It's roughly about $2,000 in certain areas. Depending if you have a basement, it's cheaper. If you don't have a basement, if you have a slab, it's a little bit more expensive. So it just depends on where it's at. And what that does, it pulls all the radon, and when the levels start to change, the fan turns on and it takes the radon out and above versus into your house where it can be a hazard for you. So that is a test. It's roughly like about $200. The radon mitigation system is about $2,000,
Oh, wow.
and you can see the difference between those prices. And I've had two clients where we got the radon tests. Oh, actually, another one, three. 3 clients out of all the ones that had the radon test that actually had radon in the home, and it's the number one leading cause of cancer amongst those that are non-smokers. So over time, that can be a hazard for sure.
Yeah. And if you're working on redoing your home, you can also put down like these radon pellets down in the concrete floor to help it from going up. So that's another option. If you're buying a home, you know it might have it, but you know you're going to be doing some renovation to the house. So those are just things to consider when you're going through that process.
Yes, and each state has a radon site where you can see anybody who tests for radon. You can go on there and see what areas have tested positive or high levels of radon
Or like
concentration.
yeah, I did that when I looked at my place, like the radon map. Yep.
It's a radon map. So I would suggest looking at that radon map and getting familiar with that because like I said, it's one of, hey, I never smoked a day in my life, but I have lung cancer. How does that work? This can be one of the reasons for that. So the next one is mold testing. So this can be very important. So I purchased a property, it had poor ventilation, there wasn't enough ventilation inside of the roof, and during the inspection, it was fine, but, they said, "Hey, you need to make sure you blah, blah, blah." But not blah, blah, blah. You need to make sure you fix that, and we didn't fix it, of course.
Right.
So when we go to sell the property, there was mold growing inside of our attic, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So it came up during the inspection of the buyers when we sold the property, and I freaked out of like, I've been living up here, and there's mold in my attic. So we had to get it sprayed, remediated, and also we had to make sure that the ventilation was there was adequate ventilation and that the exhaust fan for the bathroom wasn't hooked all the way through the roof. So we had to get that completely repaired. It was just at the very top of the roof and there was a gap causing a lot of humidity to be inside of my attic, which caused the mold growth. So
Wow.
that is if the inspector hints anything about any type of mold spores creating, I would definitely get a mold test just to make sure because that mold remediation cost roughly about $1,000 on
Oh,
my
wow.
side, and that was something that I absolutely did because it's a health issue. It's a health risk. Do
Okay.
you have anything to say about that, David?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing too, Lourdes, kind of as we go through this, is that you start with the basic, right? You come in, hey, I'm buying a home, I'm doing a home inspection. And then from that home inspection, it opens up different inspections. Now, what I want to remind people of a couple of things, and I'm going to your input, is that buying a home, you do have to invest in it initially, right?
Yeah,
And you may walk away from the deal. And I think a lot of people sometimes, or a lot of people are scared that, hey, if I put this, 400, another 200, another $400 test, then I back away from the house, I lose that $1,000. And I'll tell you this, it's better to lose $1,000 doing due diligence in the process versus spending $50,000 on repairs that are going to be needed. And Loris, a lot of people throughout the country are in very competitive markets. They may be listening to this and they're like, yes, I understand you. What you guys said makes 100% sense. But in my market, I have to waive my inspection in order to be competitive. And it's a tough, it's a tough decision because all these scary things we talk about that could cost you crazy amounts of money. How does one like have that discussion? Because I'll share this in one market that specifically I work with. People go to a open house with a home inspector. So before they even make an offer, they have a home inspector with them to make sure that when they make their offer, it's fully like, hey, we're good to go. But what is your take on like waiving that contingency in a contract?
Yeah. So just kind of like how you said, in a very competitive market, you that can be a good selling point. They're not even coming for the inspection. We actually selected an offer out of, I think it was 22 offers,
Oh wow.
and they waived their home inspection. Like, that was one of the things, and not saying that there was anything wrong, but, they've been living in the house for 15 years. They're really well with maintaining the property. There was a village inspection that village or that city required. There was an inspection that city required, and they're very thorough with their inspections, and they cleared
Ah,
it. So, they were like, "Okay, if they cleared the city, which is very strict because they go in, like inspectors, an inspector actually goes in there and checks for safety issues. Like, okay, if they cleared it, it should
oh
be good to
wow.
go." So, it gave the buyer a little bit more confidence going in that way. And then we have another one too that didn't want to spend the money, but also the city is very strict. So if a city inspection is required and you're in a competitive market, I feel a little bit better with that tactic versus the other way around. If it's first time home buyers or they don't have a large reserve in their account to fix unexpected repairs, I would not recommend that strategy. And it can be very tough. But that strategy only as we're super competitive, and that usually typically wins the deal because they're not going to come back and asking for repairs. There's
Right.
also an as is, like, "Hey, we're gonna go in as is, but we still would like to inspect the property just so that my client can be aware of, like, what may happen
I
down
got
the
you.
road." So, that can be, like, another way that we can go about it is, yes, we're gonna go in as is, however, we still wanna inspect the property just to make sure that, because we can't visually see. When we're doing the walkthrough, it's 15 minutes, we're going through multiple houses. So, it's just not we're not seeing everything that we need to be seeing about the property.
Right.
When we go in for the inspection, we can see all these items and like make sure that if we are as is, that this isn't what you didn't budget for. I'll
Right.
give you an example. We are under contract right now. We went in as is, and I'm asking the agent, "Is there anything that we need to be aware of?" Because they were very, very adamant about going in as is. So I'm like, "Is there anything right now? You tell me that we have to, why are you pushing as is so hard?"
Right.
And, we saw a few things, it needs to be painted, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. So we saw a few things that we negotiated already up in the front, like on the top, so that, we went in with a very high credit. And the reason we went in with that high credit was because of these items. So, there's that aspect. Then we just make sure that when we do the home inspection, there's nothing that's so crazy that's going to kill the deal. Because we've walked away from some properties where it has a broken sewer, has mold in it, has a cracked foundation, has some leaks that we didn't see, and we say, "You know what? This is too much money that I don't have budgeted."
Right.
And sometimes we can't even ask the seller to fix, and we just want to terminate the deal.
Wow. So, I mean, I would say another piece to this from what I'm hearing, Lourdes, is that you really need to have an experienced realtor with VA home loans because, or working with veterans using their VA loan, should I say, because of these, various parts. Because you really have two parts, right? You're doing the initial inspection of the home. When you go and look at it, right? So you're identifying, okay, this could be a VA thing, this could be a VA thing. And then you have the hidden things that the
Mhm.
VA doesn't look for
Yep.
that you need to be aware of. So you really need both. And from we work with a lot of people across the country, so a lot of times we'll talk to people that are very experienced working with veterans, but they really don't even know what the requirements are. They just may have done a lot of transactions, but they don't really know how it works, and that's why
Right.
it's so important. I know we've talked about it all the time, talking about the right team and making sure that you're set up for success on that. So,
That's right.
yeah, well, thank you, Loris. You got anything else?
The last one I was going to talk about was well and septic
Oh yeah,
inspection.
let's do that one because that one, a lot of people. So what Laura's talking about is either you're connected to city sewer and city water, or you have septic, or you have well, or maybe a combination of those two. And those do require a inspection from the lending side. So we need to make sure that the water is clean, and also that the septic is good to go. We just had that happen where the septic was actually broken, and then the seller
Mhm.
actually fixed it. But yeah, well, let's run through those reports. Those are very important.
Yeah. So that was the last inspection that I wanted to talk about, but yeah, we it's important, and the septic is where all the waste goes into, and then it has to get you have to call a service. The service comes and takes that out. And then well is where you have all your water, you store all your water. So and it has to go through a filtration system, and then also the filtration system just has to be working, and they do test the water levels with that, so they just want to make sure that that's okay.
Yeah, and that's tough part with those is they're underground, right? So it's not like you can visually look at it because some places too will be on propane tanks that are above ground. Okay, maybe you could do a visual inspection, but yeah, those reports are required, right? So if you're going into the or making an offer on the property, you could see if the sellers would pay for those reports, or they may already have them. But a lot of times we've seen it just fall on buyers to do that. And just be aware that those water tests are normally done by the city. So they do take some time. So you want to order those things as soon as possible. Same with the home inspection. You want to get in, like you made an offer, it got accepted on the Monday, like you're trying to get it in on like Monday evening or Tuesday if you can. I know
That's
that
not
that's kind of
realistic, David.
tough,
That's
but
not
but
realistic.
remember, in certain markets, that
Yeah,
is a normal thing, right?
yeah.
But just remember, you may have to pay more for that, or like we see people take home inspectors to open houses, or
Mhm.
even just do like their initial view of the property because they're like, hey, we know we're gonna like it, but we don't want to make an offer and then all of a sudden all these issues come up. It is a very real thing that if you do not get a home inspection, you buy a home, and then all of a sudden you're left with tens of thousands of dollars of damage. Now,
Yeah.
I'll leave you with this because I did this on my just myself, right? If you're getting a good deal where you can see that, hey, I have all these issues, but if I put the money back into the property, I can make X amount more money. That's a different story, right? You really have to think about it from the long haul. Another thing with this is that sometimes you may see like, okay, I have to do $10,000 worth of work. I'm already in a very competitive market. I love the home. Everything about it is fits everything we want because we know Lordis. It's not like you look at the first home and you're like, oh, this is it. I'm falling in love
Right,
and I'm going to win that house because it's very competitive.
right.
So you have to think of the longevity of how long you're staying at a place and understand the effects of those repairs on you, right? Because if you're like, well, if I spend the 10 grand, but I get the house we want, yes, I'm buying it for what it's appraised for, but we're going to be here for about 10 years. Am
Mhm.
I going to recover that money and am I going to be happy? Right? That's kind of the key. Or am I going to be back on the market looking for another year of trying to find a house without any luck? We've seen that happen so many times. And then the reverse of that, we've seen people. Now, this is just my personal opinion, Loris. I don't know if this happened
Mhm.
to you, but I've seen people walk away from properties with minimal repairs required to the property. Like we're talking $1,000 or less. Like it just was a quick handyman can come in and do it, and they've walked away from their dream homes because of minor issues. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I see it a lot. That's why it's important, like how you said, make sure you go to the home inspection
right.
and see kind of like, what and I always come up with a list too, like, your deferred maintenance, your deferred maintenance just means, you have to fix it in the next, like, year and the next, like well, right away. So it's right
Right.
away the next year, 5, 10 years, like and just make sure that you start to have a budget for that because most people are like, "Oh, yeah, if my roof is bad, I'll just, have the insurance company pay for that."
That's not a great strategy, people. You
It's
want
not.
to have the money.
Yeah, and they'll only fix it if there's a problem, but they won't fix any of the damage that's caused in the inside of it. So it's gonna cost you a lot more, to fix all the damages and the repairs and stuff like that of a roof versus being, doing the deferred maintenance of it and putting another layer on there or putting a new roof at your own expense, not covered by the insurance company. So it's important to catch it before it becomes a big problem because then, like how I was talking, then that's how you get the mold. That's how you get you know the structure of you're protecting your home, the structure of your
Right.
home, and that can be compromised, so
That's no, that's a lot of good information. Hope you guys get a lot of value out of that. Lourdes, thank you for joining me. And make sure that you guys hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.